Yo, what's going on, Bird Gang? Welcome back to the Jay All Day Show. And today, I want to talk about the Eagles' depth chart as we move closer and closer to the summertime and camp gets closer and closer and closer. I know, like most of you guys, I'm really excited for this upcoming season. I think the Philadelphia Eagles drafted really well. There are still some holes on this roster that I wish Howie Roseman addressed in the offseason, especially as we transition into this 3-4 defense. So let's go into the depth chart, look at the offense and the defense, and see where, if there's any glaring holes, can we possibly fill these holes with some remaining free agents? Or is this roster pretty much what we're going to get, and we might have some competition at some positions during camp as we get ready for the new season? All right, Eagles fans, let's take a look at this depth chart. This is not officially from the Eagles, but we can start to see how the roster is shaping up. Obviously, we got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown at the wide receiver positions. Now, in the slot, it's going to be between rookie Ainias Smith, Paris Campbell, and Devontae Parker, in my opinion. If Devontae Parker or Paris Campbell don't win that spot, one of them is going to get cut in camp, in my opinion. I like the depth at wide receiver. I'm very happy where the Eagles are in the wide receiver position. Then let's move on to offensive line. We have Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson at the tackle positions. Then we have Landon Dickerson and Tyler Steen at guard. And then we have Cam Jurgen at the center position. The Eagles had a pretty good draft with offensive linemen, bringing in Trevor Keegan from Michigan and Dylan McMahon with one of their late round picks. They also brought in some undrafted free agents to compete in camp for a roster spot. Tyler Steen is penciled in probably to be the right guard right now, but if Dylan McMahon and Trevor Keegan look good in camp, they could push for that starting spot at right guard next to Lane Johnson. And then tight end, we got Dallas Goedert. We probably could use a little more depth. We brought in CJ Uzomah from the New York Jets. He's a pretty good player. He's not great. He was with Cincinnati too, I think. He's a pretty good tight end, but Dallas Goedert has been kind of regressing the last few years. So I think the Eagles might be looking towards transitioning away from Dallas Goedert if he has another down year in 2024-2025 season. Then obviously, Jalen Hurts is penciled in at the quarterback position. I like the way the rest of the quarterback room looks. Kenny Pickett, Tanner McKee, Will Grier, all pretty solid backups in my opinion. I look for Kenny Pickett to be the number 2. And then I'm not sure if they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster. Especially with this 3-4 defense, you're going to need a lot of bodies on defense to stay healthy. Then in the running back room, we have Saquon Barkley and Kenny Gainwell coming back from last year's team. And then Will Shipley, the 4th round pick, to compete for some carries in this offense. He's really good at catching the ball out of the backfield. He's got great hands, but he can also run in between the tackles too. I think he might outplay Kenny Gainwell for the second running back spot in that running back room rotation. All right, everyone. Now, let's move on to the defensive side of the football. We have a new defensive scheme with new defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. We're going to be running a 3-4 defense. He runs a ton of zone. He doesn't really blitz that much at all. He will send some linebackers up towards the line of scrimmage, but he's not a huge blitzer. He's not going to rush 5 or 6 guys for the most part. All right, at the DN position, we have Milton Williams, nose tackle Jordan Davis, and D tackle Jalen Carter. That defensive line in this new 3-4 scheme looks pretty solid to me. There's not a ton of depth behind those guys. We have like Moro Ojomo, Marlon Tuilapu, and Gabe Hall, the rookie, Thomas Booker, the 4th. Not a ton of depth in those positions, but guys like Brandon Graham and Jalix Hunt can like play on the line as well as being the outside linebackers. All right, right now, the outside linebackers are Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat. We also have Nolan Smith in the mix there as well. In the middle, we have Devin White and Nakobe Dean. They drafted Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's young still, and he also had like a 16% missed tackle rate in college, so he's going to have to shore up his tackling a little bit. Vic Fangio is talking about Oren Burks a lot in one of his interviews, so maybe he competes for a starting spot in the middle of that linebacker core. Then at the cornerback position, we have Darius Slay, Bradbury. It looks like Quinyon Mitchell is probably going to be penciled in ahead of Bradbury. If Bradbury got cut in camp, I would not be surprised at all. It does carry a lot of dead money. Cutting him, that's the only reason why he's on the roster right now. Right now, at the safety positions, we have C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship. Cooper DeJean can play anywhere in this defense. He can play nickel. He can play safety. I wouldn't even be surprised if he lined up at outside linebacker sometimes. He's a very versatile guy. How he crushed the draft, being able to get Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, epic. Absolutely epic. Reed Blankenship's only on a one-year deal. Gardner-Johnson is on a multi-year deal. But if you look at his PFF grades, he hasn't been the most effective safety in the NFL of the past few years. His grades like metal between 65 and 70. He brings a certain toughness to a defense that I really like, but he's just not that great of a player. So towards the middle of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if Cooper DeJean replaces either C.J. Gardner-Johnson or Reed Blankenship, and then we'll swing Avonte Maddox into that slot position. All right, guys. Let me know in the comments below. Do you see any competitions brewing in camp this year that I haven't talked about? And do you have any surprise players that you think in camp are really going to emerge to potentially be a starter or compete for playing time with this Eagles offense and defense? I'm really excited about the season. I think they drafted pretty well. I'm still a little nervous about the linebacker position, if I'm going to be honest. There's going to be 4 linebackers on the field at all times, and last year the Eagles linebackers were absolute trash. Hopefully Jeremiah Trotter Jr. can step up and fill that void, or a guy like Nolan Smith Jr. or Nakobe Dean. He's been hurt a lot. He's a little undersized. Not my favorite player in the world, but we'll see what happens. All right, thanks Eagles fans. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace!